Welcome to the SDR DiscoCall vidcast and podcast, a show designed for brand new sales reps working in the world of tech sales. I'm your host, Neil Bhuiyan, and I'm going to be taking you on a journey on the SDR DiscoCall vidcast and podcast. Did you know that you can watch this show live with the guests on YouTube? This show is available on YouTube at happyselling.io. Hello, listeners, watchers, and subscribers. Welcome to another episode of the SDR DiscoCall Show. If this is your first time joining the show, this is a show for tech sales development reps or BDRs from around the world where we interview other SDRs and BDRs that are in the field and we get insights into their career, how they got down with this. We're going to figure out how they're navigating their career to give best practices to you to help you become happy sellers. If this is also your first time joining the show and you're listening to this in our podcast platform, please give us a rating and a like. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please make sure that you like, comment, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. So with the beautiful guest that we have on today's show, this is somebody that reached out to me a few months ago. And when I came across their profile, I saw that they had an extensive career and they also had an affinity with music, which I really love. And this person has done a lot of things. And I'm really excited to bring this guest on the show. So, guest, could you please introduce yourself? Who are you?
Hi, Neil. My name is Melinda Matkowsky, and I am a sales specialist working for Soul Marketing in Pardes Chana, Israel.
Love it. Melinda, welcome to the SDR DiscoCall Show. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on board. So, Melinda, just at a high level, what does your company do and what do you do for them?
So basically, we do lead generation and email marketing for tech startups all over the world, not just in Israel. And my responsibilities include onboarding the customers, doing lead sourcing for the customers, and creating a revenue pipeline on LinkedIn.
Absolutely love it. And again, as a gentle reminder for our watchers and listeners, Melinda's LinkedIn profile is going to be in the show notes if you want to reach out to her, connect with her, and pick her brain on anything on tech and SDR related. She's somebody that's very active on LinkedIn. I love seeing her posts and seeing her engage with the community out there in sales. So Melinda, for our listeners and watchers out there as well, could you tell us, outside of sales, what does Melinda Matkowsky like to get up to outside of sales?
Well, I have twin boys, teenage twin boys, so I'm constantly wrangling them. They are very active in sports, like I was. I was into gymnastics and yoga basically my whole life. So I love yoga. I love Pilates. I work out whenever I can. Hiking in Israel is amazing. We have wonderful nature, some of the best beaches in the world. So I'm very busy outdoors most of the year.
I love it. Super active. Melinda, I love that. So again, for our listeners and watchers, what we like to do at this point of the show is visit our guests' LinkedIn profile to kind of see like where they've come from. And Melinda Matkowsky, you have an impressive career. I'm not going to lie, right? So again, Melinda's somebody who's highly active on LinkedIn. She's got a lot of great content. And, you know, I love reading your stuff and your posts when you come up onto my feed. So if we look at your career, you've been to some cool places and you've known some cool people, Melinda. So, you know, you've been an executive assistant on Saturday Night Live, the famous TV shows. Like, wow. Yes. You've also been a music supervisor on the MTV show, The Osbournes. So everybody that knows Ozzy and Sharon, that's that show. Like, wow. You've done a lot of cool things in terms of music and working in media and TV. You've also worked at Elos Health and, you know, most recently for the past couple of months, you've been a sales specialist at Soul Marketing. So rather than sounding like a job interview, I'd love to know in your own words, Melinda, like walk us through, like, how did you go from, you know, working in the world of TV, media, and then coming into tech? What was that journey?
Oh, okay. So I just want to say that there was never any other job that I wanted but film and television and music. It had to be in that realm. I grew up in New York. I grew up, you know, in the club scene and also very much involved in going to museums and art shows, and all of those worlds collide together, like TV, film, art, and music. It's all together. And in New York, you're on top of each other. So that was my goal for my entire life. And luckily, I was able to fulfill my dreams, really. I mean, I got some of the best jobs you could ever get in this business. I lived in New York and I lived in Hollywood.
Wow.
So it was first of all, it's a very hard business. You have to work really, really hard,
Yeah.
and you can't give up because there's 50 people that want your job. So it's very competitive. And being from New York, thank God I'm born competitive in that way. So it was just a natural gig for me. I got married pretty much in the middle of my career. I had twins. Moved around the country a little bit, and then moved to Israel, Startup Nation. So while living here, I've been exposed to some of the most amazing innovations in tech for the last 10 years. My children started getting older. I started thinking about what I want to do. And I fell into first a job in e-commerce for a supplement company. We created supplements and beauty products, Marketilli. And that was amazing, putting my feet back into the working world. With a lot of research, data analytics, a lot of online, stuff. So it was just a good kind of like getting back into the world online kind of thing. And then, unfortunately, I broke my arm. Ooh. So I was home on the couch with a broken arm, and I saw a course scholarship from the Ministry of Innovation in Israel for English speakers that live here to help sell tech abroad. And I applied, I got the scholarship, and I joined a course it's from a company called Jolt. It's like a mini business school for tech sales and business development representatives, and it's called Enter. So that gave me a really good blueprint for what I wanted to do, and it gave me access to a whole new tech stack that I didn't know existed. Monday, Salesforce, Slack. We had to do a capstone project, picking a company that we wanted to sell. That was our final project, and it was a pretty long course. It was 6 months. Wow. Luckily, because I was born to network, and that's what I did my entire career in entertainment, I was able to connect with other students in my class, and someone told me about a job that was coming up basically the day that I graduated, and that was Elios Health. And of course, there are tons of SaaS platforms, to sell in Israel, especially. This one was powered by AI. It's behavioral health. It was for clinicians. It was reaching out to America, and it was utilizing all of the skills that I learned in Jolt. Prospecting, lead generation, LinkedIn, Zoom info. I mean, everything that I learned was right there in my job interview. I was able to say, I understand this. I can do this. And not only that, I was passionate about it. So that was my first job as an SDR in tech. And it's just been ever since. I have not gotten bored in this world. I feel like the startup world is very much like a television show. Kind of the first episode, no one really knows what they're doing.
It's like the pilot, right?
Yes. Yeah. And they have a vision, and then you edit it, and you keep editing it, and then you keep doing, over and over and releasing. And that's exactly how I feel. So I'm so happy that I wound up in this world. It's really been very satisfying.
I love it. There are so many things that I want to dive into, like with your wealth of experience and like you going through different industries, going into different roles, coming into tech and everything. If we kind of start at the beginning, like you said, working and living in Hollywood, for a lot of us, that kind of seems like a dream, right? For those that work within media. How did you get in? What was life like working in Hollywood? Because as you said, it's very competitive, and luckily for you came from New York, so you're not going to mess with Melinda. What was that life like living in Hollywood and working there?
It was, first of all, when you arrive in Los Angeles and I actually moved right to Hollywood proper. So I looked up coming from the airport to the Hollywood sign, and thankfully I had a friend there. He helped me get an apartment, and we lived right in the heart of Hollywood. Wow. So it was just exciting. Every day was exciting. My first job was at Paramount, working as a production assistant for a show that, went for 10 episodes and then didn't get picked up. That's what it's called. So every day was just, it was just an experience. It was like I said, very creative, working with writers, directors, camera people, sound people, prop. It was, and then seeing the post effort, which is the editing and the music and the coloring. So it was it was basically I went to school for film, so it was just everything coming into 3D for me, and it was what I wanted to do and where I wanted it to be. So the main thing that I had, like I told you, networking, always being, in the middle of something, showing up for everything, showing up early, staying late. I don't know if that's still a thing anymore, but back then it was about being the first one there and the last one to leave. I know that that's not, kind of work-life balance anymore, but that was what I did. And it was, people respected me. I respected them. Staying in touch. I'm still in touch with people from those years ago. Yeah. Some of my best friends I made there. So it was just, it was what I wanted. I manifested it totally. Like,
so let's just stay there. So I heard something very powerful. You manifested it. Yes. So I'm very aware of manifestation, and I've manifested a lot of things in my life. But for somebody who may be new to manifestation, how would you describe it, Melinda, and what would be the benefits of trying to manifest things into your life?
Okay. So I've read a ton of self-help books, and I learned meditation before this call. Everyone, we did a breathing exercise to get me in the zone. So I highly recommend, if Neil invites you, at least for that, some people never close their eyes and breathe. You know what I mean? So closing your eyes and breathing and imagining what you can accomplish. And any little accolade I got, any little, any support I got from people in my career, I didn't push it away. I really held on to that to give me more self-esteem, to consider what could be possible in my life. And there was nothing I didn't think I could accomplish. The only things I didn't accomplish were the things I didn't want to, the things I didn't let myself. There was always a door to be opened if I was willing to work at it. And so that's what manifesting is. It's not just picturing like a vision board. Vision boards are great. I love them. But how do you make that vision board come true? You have to get those doors open. You have to kick them down. You have to talk to the right people, and you have to not give up if that's really what you want. So I think negative thinking will destroy the manifestation. I'll tell you a quick story. I was in Miami. I was in Miami for the summer, and there is a podcast that I love called Drink Champs.
Okay.
And I was in touch with one of the hosts, DJ EFN, and we, I was like trying to like get his attention on Instagram because I knew I was going to be in Miami. They shoot it in Miami. I mean, now podcasts are the new television shows, right? Yeah. It is.
Yeah. So you're right.
I wanted to go to a recording of this podcast, and he doesn't know me, even though, I worked at MTV and everything. He doesn't know me. We never crossed paths. There was no way. Somehow I said, I'm going to that show. I'm going to a taping of that show. And within, a week of me being in Miami, there was a mutual friend, MC Search from Third Base. Yep. And I said, Search, could you call them and see if I can go to Drink Champs?
Get the referral, right?
Yeah, you have to. Yeah, they're not going to. And they did. And when I showed up, I sat there. It was a 4-hour recording. They don't edit. And you can't leave. You can't make noise. So they don't have guests. It's not Sally, like a studio audience, Yeah. So it's straight 4 hours of them, drinking and smoking. Yeah. And at the end, I said, hey, it's me, DJ. And he's like, you manifested this. I said, I did. I was not going to leave Miami until somehow I was able to not only meet you, congratulate you, because as a television person, I know that this is massive. What you're doing here is massive. It's like no other hip hop entertainment show. And then look what happened. They had the biggest scoop of the year with Kanye. So it was a very, very good experience for me to remind myself, I'm not too old. I have dreams still. Yeah. I made them happen before. And this summer was a perfect example of me. It's not a job or anything, but it was just a great experience. And, I was so grateful for it. It's special. When you get to see something like that on the other side of the camera, it's special. And I appreciated it. So.
Awesome. That is freaking amazing, Melinda. Like, you're very right. And you said something very pertinent there, which was, with doors to success, if the door's locked, then smash the door in, right? And you got to keep going for it. And you're right, I've got like a vision board in front of me, But there's a mindset that I've learned where a lot of the time in my past, I'd say, I want to do this, I want to go there, I want to do this, I want to accomplish this. But I had to change the phrase of what I was saying. I then changed it to, I will do this. I will meet that person. I will go into that company. And even the last couple of months, I've had to do a lot of things which have been outside of my comfort zone. And normally where I'd stagnate and maybe procrastinate a little bit too much, but I know just F it, just do it, dude. Because the more you keep thinking about it or, just pondering, it just doesn't happen. And you just have to go get it, right? And I love that energy with you because even when, for our guests and listeners, Melinda, when you reached out, reached out by email, you're telling me what you know about the show, you want to get in touch. And I was like, who is this lady? She's coming with some strong game here. So I was like, okay, I need to know who she is. So I love that with you. And, another point that I'd like to dive into a bit is this networking piece. So, you said you were born to network. So networking is what's helped me get into many places and do a lot of, cool journeys in my life. What tips would you give to somebody, whether it be in sales, music, or whatever they're doing with their life? How can they best start networking with people? How do they put themselves out there? How do they get over the fears of, how people may perceive them with, imposter syndrome stuff? What tips would you give for networking, Melinda?
I think that whenever you meet someone, who is your contemporary, who you feel, you have the same vibe with, whether it's with business or personal or community, religion, anything, you get to know the person, you schmooze with them, and you stay in touch. That's the most important thing. And thank goodness we have social media, because it used to be a Rolodex, a telephone call, and then eventually email, but really, or showing up to the coffee shop or the club or, anything that you were invited to. That's the main thing. Don't think that there is anything beneath you to show up to. If you're invited to something, you see a sales, a conference. We had one here in Israel. It was amazing. I met a bunch of other SDRs. You really show up, and don't show up and stand in the corner. Smile, say hello. People want to talk. That's why we're there. And, keep in touch. And the great thing about LinkedIn is that commenting on your post, for instance, when I see you post something interesting, I comment. I'm not being phony. It's real. It's a real sincere. And that's the other thing, is being sincere. People can tell if you're being sincere, if you're really into what they're saying. Are you listening? Make sure you're listening, and, stay in touch. And then there was actually a job that I saw on Facebook a couple of years ago. And I looked, who do you know in common with me? And she knew a friend of mine from LA that I worked with at MTV. And it was someone in Israel, a startup. And I said, David, can you please give me an introduction to her? And he was like, because he's been in the same company for a long time, he was like, that was great networking. I don't reach out to him all the time, but we have a good, rapport. And maybe I didn't talk to him in 5 years even. I had no problem asking him to introduce me. And she said it. She goes, I wouldn't have talked to you if he didn't reach out, because your resume doesn't really fit for this job. So it was a great experience, and it reminded me again, as I was getting back into the world of business, that these are the kind of relationships you always want to keep, and a good way to keep them is on social media.
Yeah, hell yeah. And I think, there's so many things that I can relate to that in terms of the networking side of it. Most recently this week in London, I went to an SDR event in London with some guys and girls called Sales Confidence. And truth be told, I haven't been to a networking event for a while. I've been to conferences, but not a nice intimate room with 50 people, and some people are giving presentations and talks. And there was a part of me before I went to the event thinking, I don't want to go because I'm really comfy at home and I don't know these people and I could just, forget about it. But then there was this thing inside me saying, Neil, if you love SDRs and you want to be in that world, then you need to go visit that world, and you have to feel a bit uncomfortable. And going in the room, I could do that thing of just sitting in the corner and just having my Pepsi and just not talking to anyone. But I was forcing myself to constantly just go up to people, shake their hands, saying, how are you doing? And then some people coming and say, hey, you're Neil from LinkedIn, you're that happy selling guy. And I'm like, hi, nice to meet you. And there is always that fear when, some people come up to you hi, Neil, nice to finally meet you. And I'm like, I don't know who you are. Wow. Because you see so many, I'm good with faces, I'm just really bad with names, right? But yeah, the networking piece, you have to keep pushing yourself out there. And that's how you get to know people. And it was through music that I got into tech sales, because the tech recruiter that got me into tech sales, for a US company, was the partner of a musician and DJ that I used to work with. And I remember we went to a party one day, and me and this recruiter are talking, and she said, "So what do you do?" And I was like, "I work in B2B sales. I work in telesales." And she was like, and I was like, "What do you do?" She said, "I work for tech startups." And I said what I did, and she said to me, "Do you want to be rich?" And I was like, "Huh?" And that's kind of like how I got into tech sales. So there's a lot there. But I'd also love to know, for somebody that's had an extensive career working within media, and you alluded to earlier that, you came across Jolt, you went through the training with them, you learned about tech sales and, finding out about the world of startups. How did you make that transition of working in, from Hollywood and then coming to tech? What was going through your mind, and how did you go through that transition?
I didn't think that I would even be interested in it. But when I saw the innovation and the platform and even the graphics, like the graphics really excited me. I like to see the visual. And even though these are not visual products, it's still exciting to see how someone markets their product. So the marketing was the same thing as kind of what I did with music, was how am I going to sell the scene? How am I going to actually buy the music to sell the scene? And is it even possible? And then putting all of that together and creating an amazing scene with an amazing song that the audience, resonated with the audience. So it was just very similar in a way. And you would think, oh, your ego, you have to work in music, you have to be fancy, whatever. No, this is fancy, actually. This is really, because it's creating a lesser workload for a lot of people in a lot of different industries, and it's just this gives people more time. Like, it gives people more time to do a better job, to be with their families, to impress their bosses, whatever it is. I love that these tech solutions are impacting so many industries and so many people's lives for the better. That I've been through the advent of the internet. So I remember AOL, and I remember how cool it was to do instant messaging. So this is, it's like they say that about Gen X. We had one foot in analog and one foot in digital, and that's where we're at. So it was very natural for me to embrace this technology and to learn about it. And I really try to learn about it every day, just the way I still stay on top of the music every day. Like, I'm on Spotify all day, all night, listening to new artists. So it's just it's great that I can still have my passion for that and a new passion for the digital tech world.
You're right. And what? In recent years, there's been a lot of musicians that have come into tech as well. So like with Jay-Z and Tidal, Ryan Leslie, one of my favorite like R&B producers and singers, like he's got his own tech company as well. I'm like, rah, all of these guys and girls are getting into tech, and it's growing. And to your point, coming from that world of welcome to AOL, and having that dial-up and being in front of a screen and, experiencing something through your browser, not having to download a program to your PC or, your Windows-based system, and using things like LinkedIn. So like using cloud and tech and SaaS, it's been there. We've kind of been at the beginning of that and seeing that transition. And I think what makes it really exciting is when you see cool new things coming on board. So like right now, the hottest craze is obviously AI. And ChatGPT and seeing all these tools. I geek out on this stuff, Melinda. When I see it, I'm like, ooh. But it was like back then when I first saw the AOL 95 dial-up screen dialogue come back, I was like, wow, we're going to connect to the internet. We're going to speak to other people. And this also opened up a door of connecting with people across the world that you normally wouldn't have had the opportunity, to your earlier point of the Rolodeck and having a phone and speaking to lots of people. And I think the funniest thing that I've come across, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this, is for somebody that's done music and, being on LinkedIn and we have followings and whatnot, strangers tend to support you more so than your friends and family when you're doing this sort of stuff. And I've kind of put it down to, because your friends and family know you as Melinda, or they know you as Neil, that guy that grew up, went to college, like lived life, etc., etc. But when you're a personality or you're a persona online, strangers will, give you props, like you for what you do, but your friends and family are like, yeah, well, Neil, what are you doing? Like, come on, grow up a little bit. I'm not sure. Have you ever experienced that or ever thought that, or what are your thoughts on that?
I do find, I'm pretty active on Instagram as well. And I actually spent during the pandemic a lot of time on Clubhouse, the audio app.
Yeah.
And I met a lot of people from the entertainment world, whatever. I've never met them in real life.
Yeah.
They are very supportive of me on Instagram.
Yeah.
If I write one of my sad days, like I just need to get through the day today, or one of my, fun little quirky thing and add a song, they're so supportive and it's so nice. Also, obviously the new people, I think that LinkedIn, it's a little bit harder to determine who and what and where, because every day it seems to be changing who's liking my posts and who's not. And the hashtags really are important. Yeah. But I mean, I always, again, manifesting support. You can manifest support. You can manifest support by focusing on a certain post and reading more and more and more about it until, you're connecting with all these different people that also want to talk about that post. So it's fine with me if I don't know these people in person. I love these online kind of relationships and support network. It's great.
I love that. I love that. And coming on to like online and tech and tools, so obviously when you're going through Jolt, you were learning about lead generation, you was learning about sales tools, so like Zoom Info, Apollo, Slack, etc., etc. Most recently, I've been working with a lot of new SDRs and coaching them. And one thing which is coming up again and again is, Neil, there are so many tools that people are using day to day. I see my peers using them. They're uploading leads. They're like putting them into cadences. They're messaging people. They're doing video notes and voice notes and all of this sort of stuff. And it really overwhelms them. And sometimes they feel really out of depth with this tech and these tools. So let's take a pause on, doing the actual career, but the day-to-day of doing these tools. How did you find it using these tools, and kind of like how is your brain dealing with it? And what advice would you give to somebody that's maybe a bit not tech savvy and they're a bit apprehensive about using these tools because they feel there's just so much going on? What advice would you give to them, Melinda?
So how are you finding the leads that are getting you appointments? That's it.
Yeah.
So I really, I've used a bunch of those lead generation tools, including using Sales Navigator quite a bit, getting the emails from, all these different integrations like Apollo, Zoom Info, Surf. I really am enjoying right now. I think that it's great, and it saves everything into my CRM, but I have to go through LinkedIn first. So I get to know the persona first. It's not just typing a name and saving it into your CRM. It's actually looking at the person and then deciding to save them and then deciding to, reach out to them. So I think that the main thing is focus on what is going to build your pipeline. And if one tool doesn't work, move on. Really move on. And you see if you're getting too many bounces in your emails, people aren't connecting with you. You're not really quite sure if they're the buyer persona that you need to reach out to. So it's really about not multitasking. It's about like focusing very, very clearly on who you want to get. And all of those tools can create a lot of noise. Yeah. So I just put them aside and say, which is giving me the best information? Where am I getting the best information to get to my goals?
I love that. I love that. And for somebody, that worked in Hollywood, came from New York, you don't want to mess with Melinda. In this gig of being an SDR, we face a lot of rejection. And for somebody like you that has this strong want to connect with people and network and knows how to do it, how do you deal with rejection, Melinda, like in this role?
I don't do cold calls.
Okay. Tell me more.
I mean, it was... Okay, so I used to call people and say, "This is Melinda from MTV." Get put right through.
The weight of that, right?
Right. You work for a tech startup, and this is Melinda from X company. What do? You try to explain it to them in 10 seconds. They hang up on you. So for me, I will do warm calls. I want to introduce myself virtually first somehow, before to hopefully see if they're even interested to talk to me on the phone or to have a bigger conversation with me. So I try to avoid the rejection, but of course, recently I sent an email to someone who I didn't warm up first. And he was like, "Where did you get my email? How dare you get me off of this list?" And he didn't like the tone of the email. It was a little bit too familiar for him. This was a fintech guy. Yeah. So it was pretty harsh. And I just was like, okay, this is fine. This happens. It doesn't happen that often because I try to, not bother people. Yeah. But, sometimes you have to. And you have to get hung up on, and you have to just roll with it. And there are people that I see on LinkedIn that talk about this, and they are pounding through the phone calls, doing the emails, and getting bounces or getting hung up on, and they do not stop until they book that meeting or the 5 meetings or whatever their goal is. So I have a lot of respect for that. And if you can build up your stomach to be able to get hung up on, then it's perfect job for you.
I love it. It does build a thick skin, and I think the more you get used to put it plainly, being punched in the face with rejection on a daily basis, you kind of get used to it, and you can try and not let it affect you as much, or take it on board, and being able to not bring it home when you've had a tough day of being beaten up is something that you learn over time as well.
I want to say one more thing.
Yeah.
There is something that gave me a much thicker skin, which was working for very difficult people in Hollywood. That was actually when I arrived there, they said, because you're from New York, we're going to give you this more difficult producer to deal with. You're going to be able to stomach, whatever it is. You don't have to say please to me when you ask me to do something. I don't stand on ceremony to, get you to, please, Melinda, please go get me a coffee. No, it's fine. I'll get you a coffee. That's my job. So I think that really, I saw a lot of things, and I experienced the rewards, though. The rewards of being able to let things flow off you, not to be abused. You know what I mean? Sometimes this does feel like abuse when you're getting hung up on all day. It feels abusive. But just to be able to go with the flow and say, this is my job. This is what I want to do. If it's worth it, I'm going to, keep going. And that's exactly what I did. It was worth it for me to deal with difficult personalities and go home at the end of the night and feel good about the job that I did.
I love that. And yeah, I can imagine dealing with a lot of difficult people in Hollywood. Yeah. I've met a lot of, let's just put it this way, divas, or people that are very, well-known celebs, and they have a different way of thinking and a different way of life. And I respect them for that, because that's how they got to where they got to, right? But another thing I'd love to ask is, so you're somebody that's very active on LinkedIn. You're, to your point, you're commenting on people's posts, you're creating your own posts. What's kind of like a hot topic for you right now that you're seeing a trend in, like be it LinkedIn or in sales development? What's really big for you?
Okay. So I see a lot of ChatGPT posts and carousels, and people, either bemoaning the fact that it's taking over. It could even be taking over the music business. It's not ChatGPT, but AI, creating a song from Drake and The Weeknd was, and it got taken down. A cease and desist happened. So that kind of innovation is right now the biggest trend that I see on LinkedIn. And I've been trying to share about that as how it's relevant to me, which is my prospects are in health tech. That's who I am targeting for my lead generation services. So I am trying to post things in that vein. So AI, ChatGPT for healthcare, med tech, like that.
Love it. And you know what, like, I'm a big geek on AI. And you know what, I kind of noticed things with AI like a couple of years back with like deep fake videos. Videos of like Donald Trump or like certain celebrities where their masks, their faces are being masked by AI, and it looks like they're talking or they're doing that video. There was like one for Barack Obama. And I remember back then thinking like, damn, people are going to be able to impersonate or do anything around certain people. And then obviously with the launch of OpenAI and ChatGPT, I was like, rah, this is freaking cool. I remember showing my friends, showing my family, like some guy was showing me on LinkedIn, like how he uses it. And, these sort of tools, it's just the way that things develop and the way things evolve in terms of tech. And that's, again, why I love working within tech, because there's so many cool things that come out every day, right? And I saw the other day a post by Stephen Bartlett where this lady was posting that she was in her car, she was crying her eyes out, and she said basically a scammer had called her impersonating her brother using AI voice. And this person had basically tried to say that her brother was going to kill himself, he's going to be in some sort of crash, and to start calling their grandparents. But basically, cut long story short, this scammer was trying to get money out of them to send them money by using AI voice. And when I saw this sort of post on LinkedIn, I saw everybody like commenting and saying, this is why AI is dangerous, it's taking over the world. And going on to your early point of people being fearful that it's going to be taking over their jobs. I don't feel that it would ever replace a human and what they do. The human has to input certain things into it, but equally it can be abused. and it can be taken out of context, and there are scary things that can be done. But I put it similar to, this is going to sound really weird, but like a gun, right? So a gun in itself is a dangerous weapon, but it's only dangerous based on who pulls the trigger, because a gun could be sitting in a gun cabinet, nobody uses it, and it could just be an ornament that's being there for looked for. But if it's then loaded with a bullet and then it's aimed at somebody and fired, that's when it becomes dangerous. And obviously there's a lot of contention of, should this be covered? Sorry if I'm going really deep into this. It's just something I'm really geeking out on. But like, this should be, screened by government. They should be taking control into this. And then a part of me irked in that and thinking, well, I don't think it can be controlled by government, because this wasn't created within government. This was created by, people, or people that are passionate about tech, and they're creating these solutions. And the point of software is to help and make things better, and then when things try to get regulated, then it kind of it does lose its essence. But I agree that AI, I'm very curious to see how it's going to evolve. And I think it's going to evolve at a very fast rate. And there is a lot of opportunities for people in sales to use it. So I use it for like this show. It helps me with post-production. It helps me create copy for the posts that I'm putting out. It helps me in business with emails, where I know what I want to respond with, but I just don't know how to put it into context or put it in a better way. So if I'm prospecting, I'll write out the email and then I'll put it into ChatGPT and say, rephrase this or make this more grammatically correct. It's assisting me. It's not doing the job for me, but it's assisting me in what I'm doing, and that's where the human input is. But yeah, AI, it's mad. It's a really cool place to be, and I think it goes back to that earlier point of AOL 95. When we first saw that dialogue box and we see here's the opportunity, but then depending on who's dialing up and what their intentions are, that's something we can't control. But I don't know. I'm going off on a wild tangent. But what do you think? What are your thoughts on AI?
So the first SDR job I had was at Elios, which is an AI-based product. And basically what it did was they programmed the AI to be able to understand what was going on in a clinical session, and then take that information and show, like you do, the highs and lows when you're editing audio. It was much more advanced as far as, where is the client at with their therapy recovery? Like, where are they at? Where can they do better? Where can the therapist do better? Who's speaking more? Is the therapist speaking too much? Is the client speaking, enough?
So like therapy coaching on AI, is that right?
No, it's analytics of the session, so that the therapist doesn't have to write anything. First of all, it's recorded. Second of all, seeing like a kind of a graph or however they program that for that specific therapist, not replacing the therapist at all, just giving them data points like, this client has been talking about grief every single session. There needs to be an intervention. And when you see 8 to 10 clients a day, how are you going to remember every single thing? And, so it's a super, super helpful way that AI is transforming the psychological clinical industry. And it's happening in every industry, especially, fintech as well. So I think that people are afraid. A lot of times when I would call prospect, they were like, what do I need a computer? I'm a person. That's a person. No, it's the assistant. Like the chat GPT is open AI, meaning open your mind. You can use this to create an email, make your email better. Now, I did not see this, but I was talking to a friend of mine who's posting on a LinkedIn, and I said, you should use some graphics. You need to put a picture on your post, because the posts are beautiful. They're great, but she needs a picture. And she's like, where am I going to get the picture from? I was like, Getty Images. I don't know, so we're going back and forth. She goes, I think the ChatGPT can make the images. And I was like, you're right. Tell them to make a brain in green and throw it on the post. So that was I'm very excited about that. That seems to be amazing. And then I recently posted that Google released a new product for editing, which is it's totally go to my LinkedIn.
Definitely. You guys and girls, make sure you check out the link for Melinda's LinkedIn profile so you can connect with her and see her post. Please go on.
Yeah. So the fact that it's also making its way into kind of just the kind of tasks that are very cumbersome, take up a lot of your time, and aren't so meaningful, so that you can actually do the meaningful work. just like you said, it's an assistant and across the board, and I love it. And I've tried to use ChatGPT to create something in 2 lines of my input. It was terrible. It was terrible. So it's true. Putting a full email and saying shorten this to 500 words.
Yeah,
it's great for that. And it's the grammar, huge help.
It does.
We needed it.
We did, like a true story. Yesterday, I was coaching an SDR, and we were looking at their emails, like in a sequence that they're putting out. And what I like to do with reps is I say to them, like, let's buddy up, right? I'm going to be your counter SDR. Like, put it into the chat. Tell me what you're writing, and let's look at it together. So this person put out an email, and it was very lengthy, and I was like, right, we need to kind of snip this down a little bit. So I did my own manual editing, and then I rewrote the email and then sent it back in the chat, and I said, what do you think of this? And they said, yeah, I like that, but it's just the end and the call to action I'm not too sure about. So then I took like some of the paragraphs, and we did it live on the screen where we was going to ChatGPT, and I said, make this more concise. Also, make this more grammatically correct, or make this sound more enticing to get the recipient to want to respond. And it took our original, so these were 2 people, we're in a chat, we then take what we took out of the chat, put it into ChatGPT, there's a lot of chat here, and then, asking it to reformat it. And then when we came out with a very nice, concise, simple email, and it read nicely, and I was just like, and the other person said, yeah, I've never used ChatGPT, and I was like, I do this on a daily, but we're having to put, to your point, the input in and the parameters of what we're searching, and it will spit something back out. Now, we have the choice whether we want to take it or not, but the only way to figure out if it works is just by testing it out. So I don't think it's like a cheat code. It's just, as with any software, you put something in, you see what it spits back out, and then you use it to help make you more efficient. Not to do your job, but to make you more efficient. Yes. Yeah, I think we could talk about AI for hours and hours. But Melinda,
a lot of people don't know. A lot of people have they think of AI. I think wasn't there like a movie a long time ago? Like, wasn't there a movie?
There's been loads. Like, there's been iRobot.
Little kid.
Yeah.
Created from AI.
Yeah, the film. Yeah.
Was it M. Night Shyamalan?
Yeah.
I don't. Yes. Right. Okay.
The kid that was in Sixth Sense, that was also in the AI film. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So that's what people think about when they think of AI. They don't realize it's like a software platform where you can type and you could speak and you can create, great new things. There's so many people that always wanted to write a book or they want to write a business proposal, but they don't have the skills to do that. And then I'm hearing it can pass medical exams. So it has a lot of information if you're willing to spend some time and, don't give up your voice because it can't replace you as a human being. Yeah.
But even on that, like, again, this will be kind of the last point on AI because I think we could talk about it for hours. Like I saw the other day, like online, there was like an AI radio station. And with the AI radio station, you would input the type of music that you want. It would automatically create new songs based on what good music sounds like. And it would have an artificial DJ introduce the show and say, here's the next song that's coming up. And the whole thing was just generated by AI. So you had intro, you had the name of the show, you had a host, it made its own music and put it into a playlist. And I was just like, you don't need any production team, you don't need any artists, you don't need anything. Like, the whole radio show was created by AI. That was freaky. I found that very scary.
Was it good?
It was good. And that's what made it scary. Yeah, the music was good.
Did it have vocals?
Yeah, vocals, had sounds, it had lyrics.
Come on.
It had rap and everything. And I was just like, God damn, yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, as a music supervisor, I had to come up with some creative ideas sometimes, especially when we couldn't get the actual master recording. We had to re-record. And there was actually a scene where we had to sing Michael, Row Your Boat Ashore. And we had to get the whole office into a room and recorded it because we couldn't hear the neighbors who were singing it. And that's a public domain song. We didn't have to pay for it. But that's the kind of thing AI would be amazing. I would just say, sing Michael Row Your Boat Ashore or something like it. Like if it was a happy birthday you have to pay a lot of money for. Oh, wow. Make up a new happy birthday song.
Yeah.
Put that in so I could, it's a new birthday and we would have to clear that all the time.
Jeez.
And that would save a ton of money. I'm just curious who is going to own that music. Like, how are they going to catalog streaming rights? Like all of these things, even though you're creating it, but is the program then going to own the music? Because if someone else says, I want to use that happy birthday fake song that you told the AI to create on your radio station. How are they going to get permission, or do they just take it? See, this is why this Drake weekend thing was so important, because even though it was original lyrics, it was a musician, it was a master, it was a recording, but it used, the voice AI. It still was an original song. So if I sing those lyrics over that same original music, I own that song. It's just that they perpetrate, they took their identity by using their voices. But other than that, it'll be interesting how if they're able to copyright any of these AI generated songs for use, if they become a hit on TikTok.
That's just, you're very right, and I think the best person to ask the question of how to deal with that would be AI itself. Like, how do you get around that? And it'll probably give you a business plan or something. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. But that's Melinda, great. It's been an absolute blast, like, having you on the show. And the question that I always like to ask our guests is, if you could go back in time to the Melinda who's just about to embark on her tech career, what 3 bits of advice would you give her? Or alternatively, for the Melinda that's going to be listening to this show in a couple of months' time, what 3 bits of advice would you give to yourself in the future? So which way do you want to go? Do you want to go past or do you want to go future?
I'll go past.
Go for it.
Okay. First of all, I would say that I'll say what I did right, which was I picked a company and they picked me, Elios, because I was passionate about their product and they felt that I would sell it to the ends of the earth. I would not give up until I hit my goals, which I did. So I was very good at really knowing inside of me what I was going to be passionate about selling. Yeah. So that is so important when you take a job in tech, because it can be very redundant and repetitive, and you have to be able to really sell something that you're interested in. And I think that the thing that I would have done a little bit differently would be not to work 24 hours a day, because I was so excited about being a first SDR, working on a brand new platform that no one has ever heard of, and getting my LinkedIn game going and learning all these tools, that I did not stop. I was working, 15 hours a day. So I would say, just hold off. You don't need to do that. Learn to manage your time better. I think that I really needed to learn time management skills, and I'm working on that still as well. I think also taking time to continue to learn from day one. Don't think because you did an SDR course or you're learning on the job that outside of the job there's not more skills for you to learn. Or read those articles that you like. Don't just like the headline. Read the articles you like. So that's another thing that I'm working on now that I wish I would have spent a little bit more time of, which would have taken the stress away too. Because when you're learning, you're not stressed out because you're doing that for yourself. So you have to do the work-life balance. Very important.
I love that. Those are solid bits of advice, Melinda. Thank you so much for sharing. And are there any shout-outs or kudos that you'd like to give on today's show?
Yes. So my founder, Ariel Levin, was the one who wanted us to start reaching out to podcasts. We are going to create our own podcast, by the way. It's more of like a question and answer, Q&A on what I'm trying to accomplish with our business model, what Ariel has already done, and what his role is as an influencer on LinkedIn and the head of our company. So shout out to Ariel Levin, shout out to our staff at Soul Marketing, shout out to my kids, Moshe Natan and Tobias, and everyone just have a great week, and shout out to you because you are so inspiring. I love watching you on the podcast and on LinkedIn, and this is such a great gift that you're giving SDRs, not only the knowledge, but the we don't get a lot of attention. So if you have someone want to talk to us for an hour, it's just so, it's so nice. It's just such a nice feeling. So thank you.
Melinda, thank you so much, and bless you with that. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. And a big shout out to our listeners and watchers that have joined us on Melinda's journey and chapter today. Gentle reminder, you'll be able to find her LinkedIn profile in the show notes if you want to connect with her, pick her brain, reach out and find out more about Melinda and what those guys are doing at Soul Marketing. Feel free to do so. If you're listening to this in our local podcast platform, please make sure that you give us a rating and a like. And if you're watching this on our YouTube show, please make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe, and let us know what you think of the show in the comments down below. But Melinda, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on board. Thank you so much for joining and imparting your knowledge. I'm wishing you a great and successful week, and most importantly, happy selling, Melinda.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the SDR DiscoCall podcast today. We would like to get this message out to more and more sales development reps, so please like, comment, and share in your local podcast provider. If you don't want to miss a show, you can always send a blank email to SDR DiscoCall, one word, at bcast, which is bcast.email, and you'll be added to our mailing list. We're also on the lookout for new guests, so if you work in the world of sales development as an SDR, BDR, MDR, or ADR, and feel that you have an important message or story to share, feel free to email us at podcast@happyselling.io, and we'd love to have you on board.